Ever wondered if fiends can be just born evil? It's enlightened age of ours, and concepts like good and evil are often painted as outmoded, but the archaic even. According to the modern thought, people, animals too obviously, are simply products of their environment and no more responsible of their actions than a twig in the stream. But I know better. Some things are just born bad. About 10 years ago, we had a German shepherd named Duchess that had a litter of puppies. 7 in all, 6 looked like any other shepherd you've ever seen. The 7th was a snowy white. Not a true albino, just white fur with a black nose and blue eyes. There was never any doubt of which one of them we were keeping out of the litter. We named her Princess. Before the end of 6 months, any plans about giving away or selling the others became a moot point, as all the others were dead. We just figured we'd find them about a rate of about a month. Not mangled or anything, just dead as if they died in their sleep. At first we thought maybe their mother, it being the first litter and all, was accidentally crushing or smothering them. Later, we had no doubt as to what killed them. Within a year, she came to dominate her mother. Her father, tough old alpha he was, had to degree us too. Her parents shielded away from her, but then we put out their food. She ate until her heart's content, unchallenged by the other two. Once I had tried to shoo her away and let her to go get the others eat. She snarled at me, bearing those perfect white fangs, incongruously black gums, with loose growl, so deep that I felt in my guts couldn't have heard it. After that I left her alone too. I've often wondered if the parents of the serial killers know what monster they were masking. I mean, sure, some of them are to blame of how their own kids turned out, products of fucked up households, of systematic abuse of all possible flavors, but there are even ones that seem to be true aberrations. It's those families I am curious about. Do they smile and laugh and pretend that everything is fine? I know that we sure did. We downplayed the weirdness around Princess. We tried to rationalize her behavior. The bizarre things she'd do, like killing rabbits and leaving them to hunt up in the bushes behind her house. Some dogs that do show you how they love you. Cats too, my father would say. To them it's just bringing you food. To me, it looked like she was taunting us, just like the puppies years earlier. Not one of those rabbits ever had a mark on it. Princess, just like her mom and dad, as well as very well after and never to hurt for a meal. So it wasn't as if they were hunting for food. Her innumerable kills were just left untouched. No, the only thing I ever saw her eat was a kitten. We had some feral cats in their wood around our house. One mama cat had a litter in our tool shed. Feral was really something stretching it. Most of them were tamed enough to be petted, this mama being among them. I returned home from school one day and headed around back to look on them. The door shed was wide open, and inside I found Princess, her jaws pink from her feast, as she devoured the last kitten. Her beautiful eyes never left mine. This mama we found displayed on what I could find was the rabbit bush. The tipping point came the same year when we found her Shire dead. He was the best dog we ever had, and that we ever had. We woke up on Saturday morning to find him in the backyard lying dead, without a little mark. So many rabbits before him. We can count the number of times I ever saw my father cry on the hand, and that was one of them. That was when we also found out that she too killed so cleanly. She strangled her prey like a jaguar. The fur of her father's neck was always wet saliva. We spent that morning burying their good faithful dog. Then he sent me and my mom away on some presents. No words were spoken, but there was no doubt that there was intended to do. I'm pretty sure that some of you who are reading this, will find the notion of putting an animal down to be abominable. But the other options did he have, really? Take her to the animal shelter? Give her to some other family? Who could ever go to sleep with her a queer coincidence? As it turns out, we weren't getting enough sleep that night, regardless of the decision. We spent the afternoon at my uncle's house. Once I came in from playing to get a glass of water, I overheard my mom telling my uncle that sometimes she ever wondered if the dog was possessed or something. I'd sometimes wondered the same thing. Later on that evening, not long before sunset, we got a call from Dad. Apparently the deed was done. By the time we arrived home, we already had washed up and changed our clothes, but there was a little that he could have done to hide his wounds. He even tried to hide the haunted look in his eyes. Both his arms and one leg were bandaged, and that was bad enough. But it was stuck with me all those years, just how terrified he looked. It wasn't until I'd actually been able to through the combat I realized and recognized the expression. It's how men look like after they stared at death straight in the face. My father never talked about it, but he drafted up a friend of up down the street to help, and it's from him I can get his part of the story. Princess, as well as many things, bloodthirsty and evil chief among them, but stupid wasn't among them. In that, if anything else, she then took after her father, her dad Rocky, the famous for letting himself into the house. If it wasn't storming out, he figured how to paw open the sliding glass doors out of the patio. That was really astounding, as he also had the presence of his mind close to behind him. Not being stupid, he knew something was up, and he made herself scarce, disappointing into the woods, Dad not wanting to put this off, and being on a full revenge mode. He called his friend from down the road and filled him in, and off, so the two of them went. In his own words, she was laying for us. As it sounds of us absurd for that princess laying in the ambush, I have even failed at convoying just how wrong everything about her truly was. She led them on the chase through those woods, barking whenever what seemed to be stupid humans, and lost her again. She then laid up beneath the overhang of the creek bank, just where the path crossed it, and waited. She was on my father in the instant, as he stepped down to the creek, grabbing his leg and making him fall headfirst into the water. Then she went straight through his throat. My dad had already lost his rifle at this point, and he grabbed her with both his hands to try and fend her off, wrestling with the 115 pounds of teeth, claws, and muscle, with a foot and a half of water. Princess was savaging his arms all in the while. At some point he managed to work his legs up between him and the dog and kick her away from him, providing his friend with a clean shot, to which he took, catching Princess through the chest. He put a second round through the head point blank, and then he helped my dad back up and into the emergency room, telling him he'd go back to see Princess once they got home. She can rot where she is, was all my dad had to say to the subject. After they got back from the hospital, our neighbor went back on his ATV to pick up Princess for burial. He was a dog lover like us, and it didn't seem right to leave her. If he had spent much time tiptoeing around as he could, he might have felt differently. She flat wasn't there, he said. No blood, no trail, nothing. He also said that they'd been poking around for a few minutes, when he noticed something else strange. No birds. It was dead quiet the way the woods sometimes would get at night, right before a big storm blows in. Wisely, he got there right the hell out of there. There was a storm coming, all right. That right, Duchess came in pawing for the back door wanting in, something she'd never done in all the time she'd been with us, and I had a dream. In it, I was playing football in the backyard with some buddies and ran over where a bad throw and landed near Rocky's grave. As I reached for it, Princess's head shoved out of the ground to grab my hand. I woke up in the jolt and promptly scared roughly 10 more years of life by the silhouette of a German shepherd in the hallway. It was Duchess, of course, sitting in the hallway, whining and wagging her tail nervously. She was looking back in the front of the house. I walked over to her and placed my hand on her big doggy head and said, "What is it, girl?" That's when I heard a distinctive sound of claws on glass, something that was pawing at the patio door. Full terrified, I grabbed Duchess by the collar and dragged her in along with me in my parents' room, shutting the door behind me. I was 14 and I was terrified, but even that terror retreating to my parents' room just wasn't for the security of Mommy and Daddy. That's where the guns are. I woke them up and told them what I heard. "Oh, sweet Jesus," my mother said. Dad got up and locked the bedroom door and said, "You all lock yourselves in the bathroom." I heard the patio door slide open. If anything, the rest of us had any doubts of what had just come into the house. Duchess wasn't sure. The only thing she ever feared in this world was her own pup. A deep mumble of growl vibrated the floor underneath our bare feet, and Dutch's bladder let her go as if on cue. Mine wasn't far from doing the same. What followed was a 6-hour exercise of pure terror, punctuated by the snarling attacks in the bedroom door, crashes through the rest of the house as Princess found more things to break. He whispered prayers, and my mother, who initiates the curse from my father, as another attempted forays out of the bedroom were thwarted. We were without a phone. One of my parents' nightstand was dead, and later we found out that the phone line to it had been ripped out from the main box. My mom suggested we try to make it to the car above beyond everything else. It was my father's response. That idea really scared me. All three of us were supposed to be a rational finger, but we got was instead, honey, I think it wants us to do. As if the world under the windows have turned from black to gray, quiet fell over the house. My mom and I watched through the windows, craning our heads in an attempt to get an eye on the patio. But as try as we might, we could manage to view a small most of the patio, more than the concealment for a dog to slink in or out, even for a big one like Princess. After an hour of silence, my dad quietly opened the bedroom door. I remember thinking it was a useless gesture, and any attempt at stealth was. Dogs' senses are so much more acute than to ours, and that must be as well. However, fired at least a 21-gun salute. My dad stopped in the hallway and shooed me back to my bedroom. Don't come out until I say okay. Carefully he made his way through the house and onto the patio door where we heard him shut it before he shouted it back at us to stay in the bedroom until he told us to come out. Through the door, I could hear him moving around and what seemed to be him dropping things into the garbage bag. After about 30 minutes, he gave us the all clear. What greeted us was a disaster. Ripped up cushions and pillows, destroyed furniture, shredded papers, and books all over the floor. But the most terrible was smear of gore on everything. My mother wondered about what kind of drugged into the house. Grimmed face, my father did not answer. He just simply turned and headed out of the back door to bury Rocky for the second time. As we cleaned up the best we could, while Dad drove down to our neighbor's house to make all the appropriate calls after these years. I still wonder what the portion of the homeowner's insurance covers attacked by an undead demon ghost dog. Unspoken, we all wondered what the night would bring. As it turns out, we never got a repeat, but Duchess never left the house again. Time rolled on. Occasionally we would find a new present on the rabbit bush, just a friendly reminder. Another token of Princess's abiding love. About 2 years into college, my dad called me that our neighbor passed. Heart attack in his sleep, the coroner says. But said my dad, but we were both thinking it was not a mark. There was plenty of nights where I wonder what the last thing was to pass before my old Belcher's eyes. I can guarantee you, it stared right back. I've been firsthand how it feeds. Not long after that, my folks ended up putting the house for sale. I sort of acted as go-between that deal. About a week later, after the new owners moved in, I received a call from the main man of the house. He wanted to know if any pets were behind when we were moved. I already had the answer. I asked him why he asked. Oh, me and the Kips keep seeing this white shepherd dog in our woods. Pretty. Pretty? Well, my pretties, that was Princess, a creepypasta. My final thoughts on this story? Well, this honestly was not only sad at parts, but it definitely was a pretty well made creepypasta. So I did hear about this story. It's about the owner of this white shepherd named Princess, who turns out to be vicious later on, starts killing everything for whatever reason. I mean, it's quite messed up, especially with the given of how graphic detail that this story provided. It honestly makes me wonder what caused the dog to go all haywire crazy, vicious even. It always makes me wonder because I never understood why that's the case. But I mean, it was still a pretty good story for what it is. I mean, I've seen a lot of narrators actually narrated this story, and they honestly say they couldn't really know for sure. I think that white shepherd or something, it could be maybe most likely a white wolf, which it could be maybe why he, all that was going on. But like I said, it's not really explained really much about, if this white dog princess was from the litter, which it happened to be, but or maybe it might have been a wolf. Like I have a feeling it might be a wolf, maybe. But like I said, it's all what we can really say because I mean that's just what me bringing up my own theories as to what this wolf is. Well, I think this dog was most likely a wolf, which it could be possible. But like I said, I can't really state if that's actually the case or not. It is really hard to say. But all we can really do is just come up with our own theories and all that. But I think it was just a wolf and these people were curious as to where that white pup came from. Like they thought it was a dog. I have a feeling it's most likely maybe a wolf. But yeah, I mean, that's just from what I'm seeing and what I have a theory in mind as it to say. So the grammar of this story is pretty good. I'm not going to lie. The grammar was really well done, as well as the sentence structuring, the paragraph structuring, storyline. Everything about it was flat out amazing. So I definitely got to say, there's definitely a lot of time and effort into the story. And I do appreciate the good concept of this story. I mean, it's a pretty good concept. So with that being the case, that being said, I think the only negative thing I would have to say was if all the German Shepherd puppies look like shepherds, how come one was white? Like, was it like a wolf pup or something? I mean, that is what I really want to know. I mean, it doesn't really explain how the white pup get there. Like, I mean, why was this white pup killing everything? I have a feeling it was either a wolf or the dog itself got possessed or something. I mean, it didn't really go too much into detail explain what happened, but I really wish it would have maybe explained what actually went down. So then that way it would definitely understand and explain more details as to what actually went down. But despite that, I thought it was good. Now, I don't know who the original author of this story is, as it says it's written by Anonymous, so we don't really know who the author of the story is, so I'm going to leave this as Anonymous for now. If I ever do find out who the original author of this story is, I'll be sure to give him or her or they, them proper credit. Or if they happen to, stumble across this video and let me know they're the ones who wrote the story, then I'll be able to go ahead and give them proper, credit then. But until then, I can't really guarantee who is the author, and I can't find out who the author of the story is. So I guess we'll have to wait and see from there. So I guess that being the case, that being said, I still find this story to be really enjoyable. It's a pretty awesome story, and this is honestly from the regular Creepypasta Wiki, and I recommend you guys check this story out if you haven't. So with that being the case, that being said, I'm going to sit here and say this is just simply my own personal opinion. And if you happen to disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions regards to these creepypastas. And this is simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of this story is definitely getting a 10 out of 10. Well, it's honestly a really great story. It's a pretty good classic one because this is like an older pasta. And I've seen a lot of narrators actually narrate it. So I thought, you know what? Why not I give this story a go? So, I guess with that being the case and that being said, what did you guys personally think of this story? Did you all enjoy it? Did you all not? Also, what we have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Feel free to leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. I'm the Lion Queen. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. And if you're brand new here to this channel, feel free to leave this video a like, comment, and subscribe. Ring the bell for notifications to when I upload, so that way you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out.